Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Newsmakers Podcast. This is Kyle Gergero, editorial director of the ACHR News. We have a new series for you here on the pod. As digital marketing has grown in importance, we've decided to once a month dedicate one podcast to that topic. To do this, we're teaming up with Creative MMS, which knows these topics well. Today, we're welcoming Ben Ladani, who is the president of that organization. Thanks for joining us, Ben.
Hey, Kyle, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Everyone has a website, right? Or, every HVAC contractor should have a website, but unfortunately, not all are good. I guess the first question is, how does a contractor know if they need a new and better website?
Well, first of all, we see a couple of key things that happen that prompt somebody to say, I need a new website. Generally speaking, if a business is operational, most contractors will say, our website's good enough. We're getting business from it. We're busy already. We don't need it to do anything else. But some of the things that prompt, the need for it is if a competitor elevates their brand online and a contractor sees that and it's kind of like a known competitor in the area and they see an elevated digital presence, it always triggers a little bit of movement in that direction, which is good. To me, that's kind of a little bit of a reactive approach. We like to be a lot more proactive. So generally speaking, we take a look at a couple things. One is the ability to edit things in the back end of your website yourself. So if your website was built a long time ago and you can't edit it in the back end, maybe you can't create a new page or you can't create some new content or something like that. That's usually a trigger that it's dated. Secondly, is just usability. Usability best practices change over time. And so, if the website, let's say, doesn't work great on mobile devices because it's been that long since you updated, that's a really big red flag, especially since almost or more than half nowadays of the people that go to websites are usually coming from a mobile device or tablet. So you want to make sure that you have that covered. And then features and functionality. A lot of times things like taking payment for invoices or something like that, a contractor hasn't updated their website to be able to do that. They're still a little bit behind as far as how they take payment. And so a feature like that, or other things like signing up for a newsletter, following on social media, things that should just be best practice features and functionality of a website aren't there. That's another key trigger. I'll kind of give like a fourth, I would say too, which is just overall brand consistency. Now, when you think of going to a website for any given brand, we always use like Starbucks or Apple as the example. Things always look super consistent, right? If you go into Starbucks, you get a paper cup, come out with it, and you go to their website, the font matches, the logo matches, the color matches on everything that you see there. Users are, groomed to see that as higher value. And so from a contractor standpoint, if they're trying to elevate what they charge or elevate, how they're perceived in the market, brand consistency or visual brand consistency is really important. And so if your trucks don't match your website, doesn't match your email marketing, then that's an opportunity to relook at everything and take a big step back at the brand, whereby you'd invest in the website at that time.
When we first started, right? My cousin or my nephew knows how to build that website. We've come well beyond that. You're kind of saying that the website should be the hub, right, of all kind of the interactions with the customer. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. A hub is a great word for it. Just think about, so if you're a contractor and you're looking to reach new audience, or you're trying to make sure that somebody that is looking for your services finds you and chooses to work with you. Think about the journey that they go through in their head, right? They might search online, keyword topics, specific phrases for your services. They're going to find a list of the results that are the contractors in the area that they could choose to work with. They're going to see reviews, which another topic we can cover another date, but reviews are going to be really important because that's one of the first things that Google results are going to show for a near me search, like certain contractor near me or certain service near me. And then they're going to click in to look at the brand, look at the website, and their question is going to be, does this business accommodate the services that I need? Can they solve my problem? And then can I trust them to do it? What accolades do they have, or what examples of work or portfolio pieces or things like that show me that they can do this? Give me the trust that I need to pick up the phone and call. So your website should accommodate all of that, right? The awareness, the consideration, and the decision stages of somebody making the choice to work with you.
What's the balance between, because not many people know, the homeowners know as much about HVAC. They buy it once or twice in their lifetime. How much of the website should be dedicated to educating them on what you offer HVAC, and then how much dedicated to just kind of selling yourself and your company?
Every company is going to be different. I mean, I think, for example, I'm sure there are contractors that are getting a lot of work from partners, or they don't really have such a huge inbound lead source that they get from their own content that they put out there. And then there are ones that live or die by their digital and their content. And so there's a balance of like, where are your leads coming from, and how do you want to go and grow? How much of your current local market that you're trying to attract do you already kind of have coming to you as customers? So I think it depends. I mean, I think as a company nowadays, if my HVAC company that I entrust to care for my system, maybe once per quarter, maybe once per month, however often they're coming, that I feel there's a little bit of an obligation for them to communicate with me on things that I need to know about in terms of servicing my unit, or even just in general, like, hey, make sure you do X, Y, and Z, change your filters this frequently, things like that. And if I get that information from somebody else that I start to like, that might pique my interest about, hey, these guys really know what they're talking about. So it's a balancing act of attrition, I think, as well as creating awareness with new audience.
And the days of them going to your website and seeing your phone number in the upper right-hand corner and calling it are probably long gone too. What should contractors be doing for, a chat box or whatever to convert these people to customers? Because that's the end goal of their website, right?
Yeah. So I actually, I would say it is way more about how they plan to respond than it is about how the user is going to want to reach out for this specific audience, for a couple of major reasons. What we've seen is sometimes people put a chatbot up on their website and then they don't pay attention to it. And that's kind of like the worst thing that you could do, is put an opportunity for a user to submit something, and then it goes into a black hole and there's no response. Now, generally speaking, the ideal scenario is that your visitors can connect with you in any way they want to. But for contractors, you're out, you're busy, you're working. Sometimes you're the same person doing the work is the same person responding. So whatever your system that you have in place for responding to leads is, that's what you start with as far as how you want the entry point on the website. If that's phone and you only take phone calls, make sure you're pushing people to phone. Because an internet lead especially, so there's a stat about basically how quickly people respond to an inquiry online, basically being a measure for how likely they are to get that job. And so something like 85% of people go with the first response that they get from an inquiry online. So if you think about that, and you're taking a form online and you take name, phone number, email address, all that good stuff, but you don't respond to it, or you respond to it 3 days later, that person that was shopping probably reached out to 3 or 4 different contractors. The first one that gets them is 85% likely to get that. So you want to make sure that you're able to respond as quickly as possible in the way by which you want to be reached out to. I would make sure phone is there. I would make sure that you're responding to emails if you can within the hour. I know that's hard, but have somebody to do that. Chat's a good option, but it's increasing in popularity, but we see that some people use it, some people don't. And then also social channels. I mean, you'd be shocked at how many people like to reach out on social channels for specific service work. A lot of that is because reviews are on social channels. And once they're checking out reviews, they may just want to hit up and say, hey, I'm interested in services.
It's a good point. If you're in Wisconsin in December and your furnace goes out, or Arizona in July and your air conditioner goes out, patience really isn't on the top of the list to wait a couple of days. But that hour is a good plan.
And it's also a demonstration of your customer service, right? So you think about customer service as being like a customer I already work with, but what you're doing when you respond to somebody that has a true issue is demonstrating your customer service to them right off the bat.
Then how often should a contractor be looking at their website to review it and see if it needs to be freshened up, and kind of what does that even look like?
Well, I'd say, I mean, there's various ways to do it, and there's kind of layers of how important the website is to you. I think For me, I'm a massive geek and I love websites. I, have been designing, developing, building websites for 18 years. And so, to me, a website is the foundational hub of the business. It's also the best salesman that you have out there. So if you think of it from that perspective, if it is driving the most amount of sales and it is your communication methodology to your audience, then you would treat it the way you have one-on-ones with a sales rep, right? You would check on it weekly or monthly and make sure it's performing at the level that it is. I mean, I've seen people that haven't checked their contact form and something breaks and they haven't gotten any inquiries for the last couple months because they just didn't know it wasn't working. So there's very cool monitoring tools. There's something called Pingdom, which is a paid service that you could just monitor the uptime of your website, make sure it's not down. There's other, ways by which you could go in and just do an assessment of your website from like an SEO or technical standpoint to make sure it's up to snuff. But generally speaking, once it gets to technology, a contractor's not going to have a ton of time to be doing that stuff themselves. So it's good to have a partner, right? Like have somebody that knows websites, lives and breathes it, talk to your hosting company, make sure that there is somebody that is looking at that on your behalf to make sure that things are sound.
What are one or two maybe low-hanging fruit things that just are oftentimes wrong on a website and it's kind of fingernails on the chalkboard for you that we can tell our contractors?
One or two. All right. How do I limit this to one or two? Because there's a lot. I would say, so usability is always top of mind to me, right? So if a person can't do something that is paramount to being able to get in touch with you, that's my number one. And I would say that's across mobile and standard devices. So the quick answer to that question is no clear call to action to be able to get in touch, or a broken call to action that just doesn't work. That is like a huge red flag. So imagine you go to a website and you're on your mobile device and for some strange reason you can't click the phone number to call, or there's no button that says contact us or get in touch, or the button is hidden or off the page on a mobile device and you have to scroll to the right to get to it. Those are challenges that I would say are first and foremost to me. The second one I would say is speed. I mean, to your point, Kyle, like people are looking for an immediate answer. Nowadays, it's an on-demand generation. We want things right away. If Netflix, something's not loading, people go all up in arms, right?
Yep.
So think of a website like that. I have a problem. My furnace isn't working. Something needs to be repaired. I'm having a leak, an issue, whatever. I go on a website and it takes me 7 seconds to load. I'm not waiting for that website to load. I'm going to the next person. The attention spans just decrease so much. So, the easy thing to do is go to your website as if you're a customer. Literally just like in kindergarten, they used to say, put on your thinking cap and strap it on and start thinking, right? Like do that from the customer's point of view. Pretend you have an issue. Go to your website, look at your social channels, look at everything and see where you need some improvement from that perspective. It'll be eye-opening.
Where do you stand on putting social media on your website? Obviously, ideally, social media is driving traffic to the website. You want to make people aware that that's where you are, and getting followers is always great. But I always thought, geez, if someone clicks on Facebook, that can be a black hole. And so maybe they don't kind of come back to you, or maybe their boss walks into the office and they click out everything, and now you've lost that lead. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a matter of what those channels do for you and for your audience, first and foremost. So, for example, if that's your opportunity, Instagram, for example, is great at demonstrating culture or your practices on hiring, or, like just giving a vibe of the business. TikTok, Instagram, these others that have reels are great at allowing you to demonstrate some educational content about, seasonal tips and stuff like that. So if you're doing that, then bring people to that because it will increase their ability to follow you the way they want to follow you. If you are not doing that and you have no presence, don't bring them there. It's pointless. It will end up as the black hole, and the worst thing you could do is just bring them to Facebook. Like I've seen this on some websites where the default Facebook or Twitter link is just to Facebook or Twitter and not to their company page.
Really?
Click on the link, you just go to Facebook. There's no reason for that. So again, if there's an intention behind why somebody might want to follow you there, do it for sure. YouTube's a great one. I mean, you don't always consider it social, but if you're doing videos on educating your audience on YouTube, bring them there and let them check out those videos, tell them to subscribe to it, and then they'll get the notifications later on if they're, set to get those notifications when you put out new videos. So it's all about how you're using those channels.
Gotcha. Now, if someone works with a company like yours and says they want to redesign our website, how long is the process? And kind of what does that look like?
Again, it depends on the size of the business. I mean, I know, especially in the contractor world, there's small businesses that are mom and pop and much more like, 1 to 3 people that are really servicing. And then there's all the way up to businesses that have multiple locations. So the range is pretty big. We tend to work with companies that, are on the somewhat larger side to be able to make sure that they are really using their website as a sales tool and that they're able to communicate ongoing with that website and willing to invest in it. So it really runs the gamut. I mean, I would say, think of what the website should be doing for you as your best salesperson and look at your investment in that as being, appropriate with that. So for example, if you would look at the website as being like, look, it's worth it for me to invest $60,000, $100,000 for the year for this, because that's what I would pay a salesperson and that's what I expect this to deliver to me over even maybe the next 3 years, then it's worth it. But if, hey, the website is really not doing anything for me besides just being an information piece and I get enough leads and enough business, I just want to touch it up and make it look better, $5,000, $10,000, that may be all you really want to spend in it. So that's the way I think about it, is the budget from a P&L standpoint as a business is your first thought. And then from there, break it up to be like, what do I really want it to do for me so that I can make sure I get the value that I want out of it as a return on investment.
Now, obviously, there are best practices that certainly make sense, but every business is different. Are the websites kind of one size fits all? They kind of plug and play for a business? Or is it different depending on how big your business is? Obviously, residential, commercial is a little different, but talk through that a little bit, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's totally different depending on your service. I mean, we marketing 101 rule for us is always know your audience. And so it depends on who you're trying to reach. And if you're in different locations, you might have the need to communicate to somebody in one location versus somebody in another location a little bit differently, right? So imagine HVAC in Florida versus HVAC in Michigan as being 2 totally different types of communication, seasonality, and things like that. If you cover both of those areas or have locations in both of those areas, obviously you're going to need to make sure you communicate broader and wider. So, just in terms of like is it one size fits all? I don't believe it ever should be. I think your brand is your brand and it should be unique. And you need to demonstrate what sets you apart from your competitors. If you are smaller and you're more local and there's maybe 5 or 6 good options in a local area, think about what makes you different and make sure you're communicating that. Maybe it is your response time. And so you put that at the forefront in your website. Maybe it isn't your response time, but it's your like comprehensive solution and your ability to set up a recurring billing system where somebody gets everything taken care of. And we just are very proactive and then let that come to the forefront. So it really just depends on your brand promise to your customers and making sure that the website speaks to that, not only from a content and design standpoint, but also from a functional standpoint.
All right. Well, if we have contractor listeners who are kind of interested in freshening up their website and want to learn more about you folks, I know I poked around your website a little bit. It has a lot of good information on not only websites, but everything in the digital marketing world. But where should we be sending them?
I mean, I would definitely check out creativemms.com. So, we are part of the BNP family now, and we will eventually evolve into bnpengage.com. So depending on when you listen to this, creativemms.com will send you to the right place. But, I would also check out, we have a case study on a company that we work with called BP Group. They're an HVAC contractor, commercial in New York City. And what we did for them and where they've had success is a good story as far as what we can do to help others. And that's the best place to follow. And of course, on social media and email, we're always sending out good content that should help.
All right, perfect. Thanks for the time today, Ben. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kyle.